Tonight, several breaking stories as we come on the air. A military coup attempt at a major American ally. Turkey in chaos. Tanks in the streets. Fighter jets in the skies. The military says it has seized total control, now in charge of the country. Also, shockwaves from the horror here in Nice, France. Major new developments in the investigation of the killer. A staggering toll of dead and injured. Americans among those slain. And concerns about the security of crowds in America. And second thoughts, Donald Trump makes it official, announcing Mike Pence as his VP pick. But NBC News has learned he was working the phones till midnight, trying to see if he could change course. Nightly news from France begins right now.
Terror in France. This is NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt, reporting tonight from Nice.
Good evening. As we come on the air, we're following breaking news on multiple fronts, including the investigation into the horrific attack on the French Riviera here in Nice. We'll have all of it in moments, but first, there is an attempted military coup underway in a major American ally. Scenes of a military occupation in Turkey's major cities. The military now says it has seized full control of the country. The State Department is telling U.S. citizens in Turkey to stay in their homes. The FAA says flights to Turkey from the U.S. may have to divert. And U.S. military officials tell NBC News the U.S.-Turkish military base at Incirlik and outlying bases have gone to force protection condition Delta, a higher level of readiness. Our chief foreign correspondent, Richard Engel, starts us off.
It started off small. Troops seen closing off a main bridge in Istanbul. Then it escalated fast as reports came pouring in of army soldiers taking command of government buildings, a presidential office, and TV stations. The prime minister announced that a coup was underway. He vowed to resist, saying Turkey's democratically elected government would fight to the last drop of blood against the, quote, criminals. Then a statement from the still unnamed coup leaders. The army was in charge, it said, and all existing treaties would be honored. Democracy was being defended, it said.
People were running off the main squares, off the main streets, towards the side streets, to try to take shelter, to try to avoid military presence.
This is the man the coup was directed against, President Tayyip Erdogan, in southern Turkey on vacation at the time. His fight with the military has been a long time coming. He's had secular army officers arrested for years, ushered in Islamist politics, and is trying to change the constitution to give himself more power. A terrorist attack in Istanbul last month embarrassed the government and exposed its weakness. Late tonight, Erdogan, speaking from an undisclosed location via FaceTime, called on his supporters to take to the streets to defend him. He is clearly not going down without a fight. Erdogan said this was a coup attempt by a small group within the military and would be over quickly. Shots have been heard in Istanbul, and American citizens in Turkey have been told to shelter in place. Lester?
Richard Engel tonight. Richard, thank you. NBC's Andrea Mitchell has late word about these stunning developments with a major strategic partner in the world. Andrea, what's happening tonight at the White House and the State Department?
They are watching this closely. Lester, tonight's coup by the military in a key NATO ally came as a complete surprise to the U.S. No warning at all from the Turkish military or intelligence. Only a week ago today, President Erdogan was with President Obama at that NATO meeting in Warsaw. The future of Turkey could not be more important to Americans. Turkey is the gateway for foreign fighters going in and out of Syria to join ISIS. The U.S. is believed to have nuclear weapons stored in Turkey, and Turkey is host to a key NATO base at Incirlik. Turkey has also recently restored relations with Israel, and is a key ally in the rest of the region. But U.S. relations with Erdogan have been difficult, and now President Obama may well face a tough choice. Side with the military in a coup, or with Erdogan, who's been elected, but who has been increasingly repressive and autocratic. Lester?
All right, Andrea, we will, of course, continue to monitor the situation in Turkey. We want to turn now, however, to the terror in the streets right here in Nice, France. Behind me, the scene of such carnage. At least 84 people were killed More than 200 others are injured after that attacker plowed a truck into crowds celebrating Bastille Day, a moment of celebrating liberty for over a mile. The horror stretched. The driver, identified as Mohammed El Awaj Bouhele. He was known to police here as a petty criminal, but apparently not on the radar of intelligence services for any connections to terror. We get all the latest from NBC's Bill Neely.
It's the moment celebration became nightmare. They'd been gazing at fireworks. Now thousands were scattering in terror as a high-speed truck plowed into them, among them Americans.
People started running from all directions in a panic. They're screaming, crying.
People holding babies, screaming, shouting.
It started at 10:45 last night. Driving the 20-ton truck he'd hired was a 31-year-old man bent on mass murder. A motorcyclist tried and failed to stop him as the truck accelerated towards a crowd. Gunshots rang out. By now, dozens were dead. At the wheel, a pistol at his side, was Mohammed El Awaj Bouhele. He'd driven the truck through a police barrier on the road that hugs the Mediterranean. Then, a quarter of a mile of murder at speeds of up to 70 miles an hour. He hit almost 300 people, killing at least 10 children, injuring dozens.
I could see bodies lying on the ground, blood pouring out of them, total mayhem.
Eyewitnesses described the truck zigzagging from the road to the boardwalk and back, clearly trying to kill as many people as possible before this road of death ended here. The final dramatic moments caught on camera. The driver shooting at police, officers pouring gunfire at him until he died. The man who filmed that told me he tried to stop the driver until he saw the carnage.
I was waving to him like, stop, stop, there is people under the truck, because I saw African girl, black girl, she was already, I don't know, I think finished, because I saw him clearly, and behind the truck I saw a long line of the people on the floor, on the ground.
Bodies?
Yeah, most of them, they were not moving.
Near the truck, riddled with bullets, the strollers and children's shoes abandoned amid the mayhem. And for police, the key question, did he act alone? Bouhele was from Tunisia, lived in Nice, had a criminal record, but no known link to Islamist groups. So tonight, France is grieving again. It had been braced for another attack, but few saw this coming. And tonight, still no claim from any terror group. Lester?
And what's so stunning is how much distance he covered, and it came to an end just right over here.
Just here, 100 yards down the road.
All right, Bill Neely, thank you very much. We're all learning more tonight about the scores of people who were killed and maimed in this attack. As we said, 10 children confirmed among the dead when that truck came barreling into entire families celebrating together. At least 2 Americans are among those killed, and NBC's Kelly Kobiea has more for us.
A family holiday full of picnics and fireworks. Then panic and fear. Parents desperately trying to protect their children, some throwing them to safety. Many never stood a chance. Like Sean Copeland and his 11-year-old son Brody from Austin, Texas. Both were killed on the promenade.
Sean always had a smile on his face. He had a bubbly personality, always upbeat.
The whole family was on a European vacation celebrating the 40th birthday of wife and mother Kim. Brody was a baseball player. A coach called him a one-of-a-kind kid.
Call him a little firecracker.
A glowing personality, his teacher said.
It's heartbreaking that that wonderful, talented child's not going to be finishing what his dreams were.
One of at least 10 children killed Thursday night, about 50 more, from babies to teenagers, among the injured. At one hospital, walking wounded, many too distraught to talk. 18-year-old Brian Lehen hurt his leg jumping over the sea wall to get away from the truck, then watched as his best friend was hit and killed. How are you? Weak, sad, scared, he tells me. Many took to social media and a page devoted to finding lost loved ones, the anguish clear in their pleas. I'm looking for my friend. I'm looking for my brother. My colleague has died. We're looking for her son. Among the missing, 20-year-old UC Berkeley student Nick Leslie. 3 of his classmates escaped with broken bones, but Nick was lost in the chaos. This Berkeley student posted, saying, "I was lucky. I'm alive." The confirmed dead from across the globe. For so many in this normally peaceful seaside town, an ending they never could have imagined.
The victims include people from Germany, Russia, Morocco, and France. Tonight, 52 people are still in critical condition, 25 of them on life support. Lester?
A lot of heartbreak in this normally bustling and happy summer city. Kelly Kobiella, thank you. And responding to the horror here in Nice, President Obama pledged to stand with France, calling this a, quote, appalling attack on freedom and peace. The president added that terrorism and violence are threats to us all.
These terrorists are targeting and killing innocent people of all backgrounds and all faiths, including Muslims. And I know I speak for all of us when I say that these individuals and these networks are an affront to all of our humanity.
The president today from the East Room of the White House. I want to turn now to NBC's, we're going to talk about U.S. security tonight, and measures are already tight for the national political conventions during the next 2 weeks, and officials say the danger of attacks with big trucks has long been feared. Our justice correspondent, Pete Williams, reports on steps taken to protect against a truck attack on American soil.
At the Republican convention in Cleveland, concrete barriers are set in place, and not just because of what happened in France. The risk of a truck attack on a crowd has long been a U.S. security concern. After a truck bomb killed 168 people in Oklahoma City in 1995, permanent barriers were installed around government buildings nationwide.
Barriers like this were planted in streets around sensitive government buildings. They pop up to stop even big trucks.
Portable versions like these, Delta barriers, are now deployed around the convention sites, able to stop trucks weighing several tons.
If it's an event and you can plan for the event, you can use blocker cars, you can use concrete barriers, you can use Delta barriers, and we have all that in stock, and we deploy it regularly.
And not just for car and truck bombs. Terrorists have also used vehicles to kill. 10 years ago, a terrorist drove a rented SUV onto a college campus in North Carolina, injuring 9. 6 years ago, Al-Qaeda urged followers to use even a pickup as, quote, the ultimate mowing machine.
Attacks with vehicles, with trucks, is something that we've had concerns about. And this highlights the general environment we're in.
TSA checks the backgrounds of all commercial truck drivers who haul hazardous cargo or need access to ports. And police use big, heavy trucks to protect high-profile events, like last summer's visit by Pope Francis and around the U.S. Capitol at inauguration time. The Secret Service has long planned big event security, mindful of the kind of attack that hit Nice. Pete Williams, NBC News, Washington.
Among those caught in the chaos of the attack here, an American doctor on a tour through Europe. 1 minute he's out enjoying the holiday evening on the French Riviera. The next he was running for his life, not even sure at moments what he was running from. When I spoke with him, he described the panic he felt in that moment and can never forget.
I was standing on the Esplanade up there.
American doctor Kevin Motamedi was just celebrating Bastille Day with a friend on holiday when out of the corner of his eye,
I looked up and just saw the massive wave of people coming
right at us.
Oh yeah, literally right at your face, terror-stricken screams like I've never heard.
Kevin said it was utter chaos as swarms of people were fleeing. What are you thinking when people are running at you in that kind of panic?
At first, you're just sort of stunned, and you're like, is this actually happening? We'd actually talked about that earlier in the day, how this would have been such a perfect setup for a terrorist attack.
Really? You talked about that?
Oh, yeah.
Put me in the crowd. This crowd is running. Now you're part of the crowd. What are you seeing? What are the scary moments?
So I actually felt like our group of people was the first wave out and the leading force. Literally, while we were running down the street, people in front of us were just ambling about, not knowing that anything had happened. And we were screaming at them, go home, turn around, go home, there's something happening. He knew what he was doing. It was a tactic that no one's ever used before.
Kevin says he didn't realize until this morning just how close he was to the truck.
he had driven a full 2 kilometers on this esplanade. He ended up about a half block to a block away from where I was standing.
And you had no clue?
No clue.
Have you yet come to that point where you think, oh my God, it could have been me? And those
Absolutely.
I was with.
I don't know that I completely believed in survivor remorse until today. And there's certainly that part of me that says, why not me?
Dr. Kevin Matamati there describing the scariest moment of his life. There is more ahead tonight. We're going to tell you about Donald Trump making his vice presidential pick official. But the question is, did he try to back out of it right up until the last minute? We'll tell you what we know when we come back. We're back now from Nice, France, and as the attack here and the coup attempt in Turkey were following, top headlines in the U.S. and around the world, the presidential campaign certainly continues. And after a wild 24 hours, Donald Trump made it official today, naming Indiana Governor Mike Pence as his running mate. But it came after some last-minute drama. NBC's Katie Tur has details.
They've made it official. Pence, Trump 2016, announced this morning in true Trump fashion on Twitter. After Trump delayed his announcement, Governor Mike Pence showing no signs of worry today.
And I look forward to carrying his message all across this country.
But behind the scenes, the final decision resembled the final round of The Apprentice. Sources close to the campaign telling NBC News Trump was making calls up until midnight last night, working through the decision, telling Fox News the attack in France pushed his timing back.
I haven't made my final decision.
Newt Gingrich looked to maneuver in, taking the Muslim ban one step further.
We should, frankly, test every person from here who is of a Muslim background, and if they believe in Sharia, they should be deported.
But Pence was already in New York after a blizzard of confusing leaks naming him. Campaign sources say Trump, fundraising in California, was watching TV and stewing. His choreographed rollout ruined.
So when Governor Pence got in a plane and came to New York, he knew that he was going to be the nominee.
I don't think he was here for shopping.
And Donald Trump knew that he was going to officially pick him.
Yes.
Right now, Trump and Pence are rushing to get on the same page. Pence critical of Trump on trade and Trump's Muslim ban, which Pence called unconstitutional.
One of the rights of being picked for vice president is you suddenly have to swallow all your old opinions and be supportive of whoever picked you.
Tonight, Republican leaders are praising Pence and hoping he can help unite a divided party. Katie Tur, NBC News, New York.
We're back in a moment with the touching gestures we've seen as France comes to grips with another deadly attack. We're back now from Nice, France, where the shock is still palpable after the deadly attack here. It was so brutal, a truck running through crowds of people. France has felt pain like this before, all too recently, after attacks at the Bataclan Theater, the offices of Charlie Hebdo, and more. And after such atrocities, we look for reminders of what keeps us all connected when fear threatens to tear us apart. Here's NBC's Harry Smith.
The world got a lot smaller again last night. Terror knows no boundaries, and when it strikes, it hits us all. Terror has no code. It punishes without discrimination. It is vile, evil, shameless. Bastille Day in France is like our 4th of July. Parades, picnics, fireworks. It's a kid's best day of the summer. But today, France and the rest of the world is left haunted by the reminder that not even our children can be shielded from terror. Among the dozens killed last night, 10 children. Nice becomes the 7th terror attack in France in the last 18 months. This is the south of France, the French Riviera. Terror here, unthinkable, just like so many other places. But in the despair of last night, a moment of joy. This 8-month-old baby lost in the chaos, found after a plea for help on Facebook. Gestures of humanity. Tonight, if there were any lingering doubt, we now know we're all in this together. Harry Smith, NBC News, Nice.
We're back with more from here in Nice, France, in just a moment. Finally tonight, this is the third time in 8 months we've taken this broadcast on the road to cover attacks in Europe. Along the way, there were trips to San Bernardino and Orlando and Dallas just 1 week ago. It gets us all talking about the new normal. But when we stop and ask ourselves, do we really ever want to accept the mass killings of innocent people on the streets over here or at home as normal? This time, it's the people of France wrestling with that question, but in a shrinking world, it's one we all now have to confront. That's going to do it for us on a Friday night. From Nice, France, I'm Lester Holt. I'll see you later for a special edition of Dateline. For all of us at NBC News, thank you for watching, and good night.